Shops in downtown San Francisco boarding up ahead of the election. San Francisco, very leftist place, right? Why on earth would they be boarding up? Why on earth would they do that? Right? Why would San Francisco, right? What are they so worried about? And if you're in San Francisco, get the hell out, by the way. If you're in California, I'd say get the hell out. Just please don't vote for the same policies that ran your state into the ground. But shops in downtown, as reported by the San Francisco Gate. Shops in downtown San Francisco boarding up ahead of the election. Downtown San Francisco storefronts are boarding up ahead of election day in anticipation of looting and rioting. Landlords are preparing for potential unrest only months after people flooded streets to protest the killing of George Floyd. Most marched peacefully. Yeah, okay. But some opportunistic vandals, I appreciate that you're calling them what they are, engaged in violent activity, looting in Union Square. The hope is similar lawlessness won't flare up after the election. But just in case, of course, just in case, buildings along Market Street along with Salesforce Tower to San Francisco Center are covered in massive pieces of plywood. On Friday afternoon, Macy's on Union Square was already fully covered and a crew working on Neiman Marcus. Man, if you own some like boarding business, man, you got to be killing it right now, huh? Man, I should have got into that. Carlos Garcia, it's funny how capitalism works like that, where there's a problem often created by way of the government, and the market can come up with some sort of solution. Amazing. Carlos Garcia, the manager of Men's Warehouse on Market Street, said the store decided to cover up windows with boards when others on the block started to do so, but he's hopeful the extra protection is unnecessary. Better to be safer than sorry, huh? I feel like regardless of the results of the election, Californians are smart enough to know it's counterintuitive to riot. Hey, man, who mans is this? Who mans is this? Let me repeat that one more time. He said, I feel like regardless of the results of the election, Californians are smart enough to know it's counterintuitive to riot. No, they're not, Carlos. Come on, don't be naive, man. And clearly you don't believe that because you boarding your stuff up. You don't believe that anyway. You don't believe that, man. You don't believe that at all, bro. You wouldn't be boarding up your stuff if you believed that. I'm really hopeful that there will be no unrest in San Francisco. The Union Square Business Improvement District told the San Francisco Chronicle it expects 75% of businesses to board up. The San Francisco Police Department told the San Francisco Business Journal in an email that there are currently no known threats to the city or polling places. Of course, right now, you ain't got the results yet. You ain't got the results yet. Only when the results happen, and specifically once Trump, you know what I'm saying, if Trump wins, that's when the stuff hits the fan. But the department is staffing election day with enough officers to respond to routine calls and any spontaneous events that may occur. San Francisco is not the only city where landlords are boarding up businesses. Reports of businesses taking this step are coming out of everywhere, from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles. Hey, I don't blame them. Wonka Bars just became a Super Mac. I see you, bro. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all for doing that, right? It makes sense. It makes sense for them to do that. There are people that are going to act up, right? In the event that they don't get their way. More so putting it, which I put out a video earlier discussing, that it's going to come from the left. And there's people that I did a video about this, like I said, and there's some people in the comments saying, well, either both sides are going to act up if they don't get their way. What evidence do you have of right wingers actually rioting on behalf of right wing stuff over the last 10 years? Even the spot where the idiots were having the tiki torches and stuff, they wasn't rioting. Right? So what example do you have of that? They didn't even do that. They didn't even do that when Obama, right? A person that they were so much against. They didn't even do that when Obama won. But the leftists had. They did it when Obama, it was so bad. If you remember the whole Ferguson thing that popped off, Obama had to, which he had enough sense to do it, give him credit, Obama had to condemn them because they were acting up. Obama had enough sense to be like, all right, guys, stop this crap. So they was riding when they guy was in charge. So this whole idea that, well, it's going to come from either side, shut up. We know that there's one side more likely to do it. It's okay. I know that it's convenient for a leftist to think, well, their side's going to do it, or it's more convenient for a libertarian, the libertarian that doesn't know what a libertarian is, right? The libertarian that thinks libertarianism is centrism when it's not, right? They can't call it for what it is because they're so, I guess their little principles are so threatened by calling it what it is, right? So they can't compare and contrast the left, mainstream left with the mainstream right without saying that they're both the exact same, though to all evidence metrics that we could point to, they're not, right? They have similarities, but they're not the same. So let's be precise and let's continue to be precise about this, right? When the crap hits the fan, there may be, if let's say Biden wins, there will be conservatives that are going to be upset. But it ain't going to be anything to the degree of if Trump wins, they pulled out all the stops, got everybody involved, even more so than they did in 2016. And if they still end up losing, the side that's going to act up is going to be the side that the leftists for the last, I mean, you can argue years, but certainly post George Floyd, they've been particularly excusing someone's bad behavior that has been rioting. Again, you can't really find any examples. And if you do have to, you got to try to find this like one example that happened within the next decade. I could look at Philadelphia yesterday of a bunch of leftists having talking about obviously it's for justice, right? I don't have to go look at this one instance that happened maybe in August of 2007. Like, I don't have to do that. Some Tea Party member doing something effed up. I don't have to do that, right? I could go tomorrow, right? Or maybe tomorrow they'll mess stuff up, leftists. But we can at least go as early as a couple of days ago and see what they were. We talked about it on the show about that, what they were doing in Philadelphia. We don't have to do this whole trying to be in between the leftists and the right folk. No, we don't got to do that. So let's be precise. There is a side that's going to probably act up. And they're probably going to burn stuff down, and they're probably going to loot businesses. But it ain't going to be a bunch of Trump supporters that are going to go steal shoes from Foot Locker. You know what I'm saying? That's not what's going to happen, okay? Let's just be honest here.